Kyle Busch just destroyed NASCAR with one insane statement. And what he said wasn't just some random comment. It was a truth bomb that hit the racing world right between the eyes. NASCAR fans had to stop and ask themselves if they ever really understood what made great drivers different from the rest. On the Pat McAfee Show, Busch said something that completely changed how people think about racing at the top level. He explained that the key to his success wasn't some big mystery. It was a matter of pushing just a little bit harder than everyone else. Busch said most drivers go to about 97 or 98% of what the car can handle. But him? He pushes it to 100.5%. Not 100, not 99. He goes past what seems possible, just a little over the line, but he somehow keeps it under control. That extra 2.5%, according to him, is the difference between winning races and running mid-pack. That might sound like a small number, but in NASCAR, that's everything. That's what allowed Busch to do something almost no one else has ever done: win both the Xfinity and Cup Series races in the same weekend multiple times. And it explains why, at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Busch has 2 Brickyard 400 wins in 2015 and 2016, and nearly a third in 2017 before he got wrecked on a late restart. Busch said flat out, "We got screwed." He believes he should have won 3 in a row there, and he's not afraid to say it. But while he's known for being bold, Kyle Busch is facing something now that he's never really dealt with before: failure. Since joining Richard Childress Racing in 2023, Busch started strong. He won 3 races that year and it looked like he was back on top. But since then, nothing. Not one win. His current streak without a win is now at 78 races, the longest drought of his entire career. For a guy like Kyle Busch, that's almost unthinkable. Things got even worse at Dover Motor Speedway when his team owner, Richard Childress, came over the radio after the race and basically called the team out. "We are in trouble, period," he said. Busch had finished 11th. His teammate Austin Dillon finished 15th. That's not even close to the front of the field. For a team like RCR that used to dominate, it's embarrassing. Busch didn't back down though. He stood up for his crew. He said everyone at the shop was working hard, that the balance and feel of the car weren't bad, but they just didn't have speed. In other words, the car drives okay. It just doesn't go fast enough. That's when things got even more interesting. Busch started talking about the new generation of NASCAR cars, the next G car introduced in 2022. The whole idea was to make the sport more equal, but Busch says it actually made things worse. Now, instead of each team building their own cars, almost everything comes from the same suppliers. Chassis, bodies, parts, they all come from the same places. Busch said that before, teams could build their own stuff and try new things. Now, everyone is basically building cars out of the same Lego set. So how do you win when everyone's got the same toys? Busch says it's all about how you put the pieces together. The new battleground isn't in the shop making parts, it's in the engineering department. You have to find tiny loopholes, gray areas, and ways to assemble the car that others haven't thought of. That's the new edge. But Busch didn't stop there. He went even deeper, talking about one piece of tech that he believes is ruining racing: the rear-view camera mirror. This isn't your normal mirror. It's a full high-definition camera system that shows everything behind the car. And drivers are using it in a new way. Instead of just checking who's coming, they're using it to block better, to move at just the right moment to take air away from a chasing car. It's called mirror driving. Denny Hamlin used it to beat Kyle Larson last year at Dover. It's clever, but Busch hates it. He thinks it takes the racing out of the driver's hands. Before, you had to rely on your spotter and your instincts. Now, you can just stare at a screen and play defense. Busch believes that's not real racing. But the younger drivers, they love it. They see it as just another tool. All of this is building up to a dangerous moment for Kyle Busch. His place in the playoffs isn't safe. He's 15th in points, but because other drivers have wins, guys like Josh Berry and Shane Van Gisbergen, they're ranked ahead of him. That bumps Busch to 18th. Only 16 make it in. So unless he wins one of the last 5 regular season races, he's out. This would be the second year in a row he misses the playoffs. For a guy with over 730 Cup races and 63 wins, it would be a huge fall. And Busch knows it. The pressure on Kyle Busch isn't just about wins and points anymore. It's about legacy. And the more he talks, the more it's clear that something deeper is eating at him. He's not just upset about his own results, he's calling out NASCAR itself. And his next comments make that perfectly clear. Busch dove even further into what's wrong with today's racing. One of the biggest issues he sees is how teams have been forced to stop building and start buying. Before the next G car, teams built their own chassis and hung their own bodies. They had room to experiment, to push the limits, and sometimes bend the rules to get ahead. That was part of what made NASCAR exciting. The phrase, "If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying," was almost a motto. Now, that culture is gone. Teams buy their parts from a single source supplier. Everything is standardized. You can't outbuild the competition anymore. You can only try to outsmart them in the tiniest ways. Busch says the real edge today is in how you manipulate the Legos, referring to how teams assemble identical parts in slightly different ways. That's where the races are won and lost now, in engineering rooms, not garages. And even when it comes to race day strategy, technology has changed everything. Busch singled out the new camera-based rearview mirror again. This high-tech tool has given drivers a new way to play defense. They can watch the screen and block cars coming up behind them with more precision than ever before. It sounds smart, but Busch hates it. He thinks it replaces driver skill with tech tricks. He says racing should be about feel, instinct, and teamwork with your spotter. With the camera, drivers can manipulate the air, ruin someone else's run, and basically stall the race from the front. It's legal, but it's not racing, at least not how Busch defines it. That difference in opinion, old school versus new school, is a real divide in the sport right now. Busch represents a generation that believes in guts and grit. The newer drivers see data, tools, and strategy as just part of the game. It's a culture clash that's getting louder, and Busch is standing at the center of it. But while Busch is trying to stay focused on the Cup Series and saving his playoff chances, something else is happening behind the scenes that's just as dramatic. His former team, Kyle Busch Motorsports, is falling apart, and nobody saw it coming. Back in September 2023, Busch sold KBM to Spire Motorsports for $14.5 million. The deal included everything: the shop, the chassis operation, the workers, and even rowdy manufacturing. At the time, it looked like a smart move. Busch wanted to focus on driving and family. Spire got a legendary truck program with tons of potential. They started strong. Spire ran big-name drivers like Kyle Larson, William Byron, Michael McDowell, and even Busch himself in the trucks. Young drivers like Roger Kuth and Perez de Lara got their shots too. Kuth won at Nashville. De Lara scored 2 top 10s. It looked like the KBM legacy was alive and well under new leadership. Then, out of nowhere, the Reddit threads started popping up. Auction listings appeared. Pictures showed race-ready trucks, engines, and gear being sold off. Something weird was happening. Spire was unloading KBM's assets quietly, without any big statement or press release. Nobody knows why. There's been no official word. Some think Spire is changing strategies. Others say it's a money issue. Either way, it feels like the KBM dream is slipping away, and fans are mad. Many are begging Busch to buy it back. Kyle should buy it all back for 50% off, one fan posted. Others say KBM is part of Busch's identity, and that he shouldn't let it disappear like this. But there's a deeper reason KBM may never be the same. Rudy Fugle, the crew chief who helped turn KBM into a Truck Series monster, left when William Byron went full-time in Cup. Some say that was the real turning point. Fugle wasn't just a crew chief. He ran the entire competition side. When he left, a big part of KBM's strength left with him. Now, as Spire clears out the shop, and as Busch fights to keep his Cup career alive, the legacy he built is in serious danger. From winning races to owning one of the greatest truck teams of all time, everything Kyle Busch stood for is under threat. He's speaking out. He's revealing secrets. He's fighting to stay relevant in a NASCAR that looks less and less like the one he grew up in. So the question is, can Kyle Busch still find a way to win in a sport that's changed so much? Or is this the beginning of the end for one of the greatest drivers we've ever seen? Let us know what you think, because this story isn't over, and if Kyle Busch has anything to say about it, it's far from finished.